Well, we're here at the southern end of the Migneint Arenig Dduallt, SSSI and SAC, on a holding called Penarran. This is a Forestry Commission land holding, where as part of the LIFE European funded project, lots of work has been happening to block ditches, cut down conifers, and as you can see behind me, start grazing the area using some wild carneddau mountain ponies. One of the most important features of the Migneint Arenig Dduallt site is the blanket bog. We've got lots of blanket bog on this site. In the UK we've got about 15% of all the world's blanket bog, forming mostly in western areas because we get lots of rain, and rain is what's needed to create the habitats we need, all the water, and the plants that we've got growing in the blanket bog slowly decompose and form peat, and peat is what forms blanket bog. I'm standing here by one of the ditches that we've blocked at Penarran, and already you can see the sphagnum moss coming in into the bog pool, and this sphagnum is one of the elements that forms peat very slowly and slowly builds up the peat layer in the soil. Studies in some areas of the Migneint site have shown that the peat is up to 9 meters in depth, and when you think that it takes 1,000 years to form 1 meter of peat by slowly decomposing, well, then you're looking at the history of Wales since the Ice Age is present here on the Migneint site. To date, most of the work has been on publicly owned land, like the land we're standing on here is Forestry Commission land. There's also been some work on the RSPB reserve at Vyrnwy, and the work has been carried out to block the ditches, and lots of research to go with that to look at the benefits, not only in terms of biodiversity, but also in terms of the impact of ditch blocking on humans further down in the catchment. It's been proven that by blocking ditches, it slows down the water flow and stabilises water flow. So rather than having a kind of peak flow after a storm with all the water rushing out through the ditches and into the streams at a low level and causing flooding, it actually slows down that flow and probably helps to alleviate flooding in lowland areas by blocking ditches in the upland. Another aspect of research is looking at carbon storage. Peat stores a huge amount of carbon within it as a result of storing old plants, and old sphagnum is full of carbon. When the peat dries out, you lose the carbon through wind blow. It's carried out by water, and as the peat dries out, you just deteriorate and you lose a lot of carbon out into the rivers, out into the atmosphere. By blocking ditches, it's been proven that you store that carbon. So as a measure against climate change, then we think that protecting peatlands is a priority. As I mentioned earlier, it's all been done so far on public land. The interesting thing is that from doing all the research and from the findings that we're having, is that private landowners are now showing an interest in it. And the exciting thing here at Penarran is that neighbouring landowners at Arenig on this side here, two completely private landowners, farmers, have shown an interest, and they've agreed now to block all the ditches on their land, which is very exciting from our point of view, in that it's restoring an enormous area of blanket bog. It's been called one of the finest areas of blanket bog in the whole of Wales, if not Britain, here, and we're working now to restore it into prime condition. Alright, we've got a nice little flush here, and interspersed with some polytrichum moss, we've also got lots of this stuff, which is sphagnum. The main peat building moss, or bog moss it's also known as, can hold up to 20 times its weight in water. Got special cells to store water, and there's we think we've got at least 28 different types of sphagnum in Wales, ranging from green, yellow, golden colours to very red ones, and one of the nicest ones we've got on the Migneint site is a very red one called Sphagnum magellanicum, which is reasonably rare and a very nice thing to come across. As well as the botanical interest, we've also got lots of bird interest on this site. It's actually an European special protected area because we have peregrine falcon, hen harrier, merlin all nesting on the site. One other bird that we have a bit of conflict on this site with is the black grouse, which traditionally require forest edge and maybe perhaps some bog for breeding and for lekking. Here we're working with the RSPB to try and take back some of the conifers, but still provide enough habitat for the black grouse, as well as restoring the blanket bog into a good condition. Okay, here we're trying to tackle two of the biggest problems facing blanket bog here in Wales. The first of which was lots of these drainage ditches, as you can see behind me. They're busy blocking these now, hoping to raise the water table. The other aspect that you can't see here now is the fact that lots of conifers have been taken out in the past. Conifers impact blanket bog in two ways. First of all, there's all the drainage that has to be put in before planting the trees, and secondly, once the trees are there, they keep on draining the site by evapotranspiration. Basically, they suck out water from the ground and it goes away into the atmosphere. So by taking out the conifers first of all and then blocking the ditches, hopefully we will reinstate the water table to where it was before, get back some of the nice blanket bog vegetation, alleviate flooding problems downstream, store more carbon in the peat, and also improve the water quality, because by not allowing peat and minerals to be carried out with storm water, we're actually keeping it in the uplands where it belongs. Well, we know that restoring blanket bog is really good for nature conservation. That's been proven in lots of case studies. But what we're also seeing now is that it's also very good from an economic perspective, because not only are we storing water in the uplands, reducing flooding downstream, which can be very costly, we're also locking carbon in the peat in the uplands and in the plants. We're also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So all in all, these are all ecosystem services that blanket bog and peatland can provide. On top of all this, we're recently finding that it's not actually as bad for agriculture as people had feared at the beginning. It's actually quite good. We've had farmers come up to us now wanting to block their ditches because the findings of research show that less sheep are being lost in ditches. The grazing isn't being affected at all by blocking the ditches. And if we can have the support of the agricultural community, then surely you can see that ditch blocking and restoring blanket bog is a fantastic thing to do.